Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 1964 Austin FX4 taxi. Now this taxi cab was produced from 1958 to 1997 with more than 75,000 being built, and yeah, it went through various iterations, different engines, different transmissions over the time to keep it up to date, but the general shape and concept of this car did live on right into the late 90s, and then even with the update after that it still somewhat looked like this car. And yeah, it was the first London taxi cab produced that had 4 doors. Like its predecessor, the FX3, it has a separate chassis, but this time it had independent front suspension and dual circuit hydraulic brakes. It also features Ackerman steering geometry, which allowed it to make U-turns in just 7.6 meters or 25 feet, which is extremely useful in London when you got tight streets, and a lot of time you're going back and forth on the same kind of street, so you want to be able to turn around with ease without having to do a 3-point turn, which this car allowed. So yeah, very surprised that they actually included this car in the actual game. Really wasn't expecting it, but I am glad it is in the game, even if it did take a while for me to get. I had to get it in a wheel spin. So yeah, really been looking forward to having this in the actually in my garage, and yeah, it's not disappointed really, because it's extremely authentic to the actual car of the time. As you can see, it's even got the fare meter in the front there, and yeah, this is actually one of the few cars I've actually been in that feature on this game, because it is obviously a cab, and yeah, so prominent feature of British roads, even if this version is a little bit less out there nowadays, because obviously it is quite old. But it's perfectly capable as a taxi cab. As you see, you've got plenty of room in the back here. Even got 2 other seats in front of you in case you need more than a few people in the back. So yeah, you can actually sit 5 people in there and still have some room for luggage. Because a weird quirk of this car is that there isn't all that much room in the boot, to be honest. Whether or not the cabbie's actually kept the spare wheel, I don't know, but as you can see, there's not much room there in the boot, which is why a lot of the time you see the boot hanging out like that, with luggage sticking out of it, because there just isn't that much room. But that's because the back was obviously plenty big enough for luggage out at the end of the day, because there's not very much room in the front. As you can see, it's quite cramped in here. A notable thing that was actually upgraded once this car went out of production was an improved interior for the actual driver. But yeah, it's got a weird few little quirks, as you can see by the speedo there. It goes up to 60, and then when it gets up to 70 and 80, we can't see the 80, the numbers turn around, so you can actually see them a little bit better. I actually quite like that, obviously, though. This car being in London would rarely ever get up to 70 unless it was going on the motorway around London, which is a good thing really, because this does not have all that much power. Granted, it is only a cab, so it's not supposed to be a performance vehicle, but 68 horsepower and 116 pounds-feet of torque from a 2.2 litre inline-4 engine, which isn't a huge amount of power, but at the end of the day this car's only meant to be going up to about 20, 30, maybe even 40 miles an hour around London. It's not really a car that's ever going to get up to 60 and beyond, though obviously it can. But yeah, 68 horsepower is not all that much for a car that weighs 3,527 pounds, so yeah, hardly the quickest vehicle, but it's also not the slowest either. And I actually quite like the actual few quirks about this car. Obviously there's a speedo that I looked at before, but then you got the bunny ear indicators on the top there, and the fact that despite the fact it is rear wheel drive, you've got a really rather flat plain floor. As you can see, there's nothing there that's obstructing people getting in or out onto that into the back there, and yeah, that's obviously because it has a separate chassis where the body is put on top, just like that Bentley 8 litre that we reviewed a while ago. So yeah, nonetheless, let's get out onto the road and see what this legendary car can do. Now this is the kind of car that as soon as you see it in a film or on a TV show, that you know where the film or TV show is set. Set in Britain, most likely in London, because these black cabs weren't exclusive to London, but that's where they predominantly were, and that's where they were most well known to be used. But yeah, acceleration, like I said, isn't the greatest, but again, it's not a car that's for performance, and it's certainly not really ever going to be getting up to 60 and beyond, but it can do 60 in 32 seconds and actually get onto a top speed of 91 miles an hour, which isn't all that bad for a car that, you know, it's hardly the most aerodynamic shape out there, and obviously he's only dealing with 68 horsepower and a £3,500 plus car. Now obviously when you add more weight to this vehicle, because obviously you can get 5 people in the back and luggage, that acceleration is obviously going to get a lot worse. But again, like I said, it's all about the 0 to 20, 30 and 40 mile an hour speeds that count more than anything beyond that, and this has pretty smooth acceleration up till then and is fairly decent up until then as well, as I'll show you now. We'll just pull up here. So yeah, it's not really about 0 to 60 like I said, so let's just see. There you go, there's 20 and there's 30, so we're up to the speed limit you'd be getting up to in London, and maybe 40, which doesn't take that much longer either. So yeah, not obviously something that's going to set your hair on fire when driving around, but it is a nice car to cruise around in, and certainly was more than capable of dealing with everything that a car that's as a taxi can deal with, and also quite a smooth ride. The torque is there to help, you know, make the acceleration as smooth as possible, so it's not a jerky car off the line, it's not something that's going to throw people back into their seats, it's there purely to keep it smooth and keep the car going with such a huge amount of weight for a car with so little horsepower. So yeah, really glad it's in the game, and yeah, obviously means we can drive it out there against the likes of the Ford Crown Victoria, which is obviously another notable taxi cab, but this car was designed to be a taxi cab from the outset. It's not a car that's been modified or been repurposed as a taxi. So yeah, it's really good that we've actually got a purpose-built car for such a thing like a taxi service on this game, quite frankly. And yeah, it's more than deserving to be on this game, being set in the UK, and yeah, I'm really glad it's on the game. It will be hilarious if we actually get this in a future Forza Motorsport game, because it would be fun to see what this can do out on the track. But nonetheless, it's still a fun and quirky car to drive on this game, even if it ain't the quickest one you're going to see out there. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.